You insisted you shouldn't go through with it. Yeah, I would probably, if I was being honest, my gut reaction would not be to hug him, because I would still be a little, you're kind of implying, I would be a little, are you suggesting that I cheat? So I would be a little, not, this would not be my gut reaction, but I would at least thank him for what he was trying to do, because I would understand that he's just really trying to be nice and being chivalrous. You thanked him for what he was trying to do. Thank you, really. Cove's consideration made you feel good. You felt terrible about this all. You were teary-eyed over the gesture. I don't know if it would have made me feel good. Like, finding my assignment at that moment, I would be... This is the thing that I know is a problem with me, that my spouse, Colin, points out all the time, is that when I get into these states, I get tunnel vision. I get tunnel vision, and I'm so focused on the crisis that's happening right now that, if Colin's trying to help make it better and he's trying to help fix things, I will acknowledge it and I will appreciate it, but it wouldn't honestly make me feel much better. Like, I would feel like it's a really nice gesture, and I think it's sweet that he's trying to help, but it wouldn't honestly make me feel better. So I would probably still feel terrible about this all, if I was being honest. You didn't want to make such a dumb mistake and lose your work. You didn't want Cove to think he had to do something like that. It was just awful. This is very accurate. This is very, very accurate. The game isn't always super accurate when it comes to me, but this is super, super me, down to a T, especially at that age. Especially. But as though he could read your mind, Cove spoke softly to you. Please don't feel bad, Vaughn. Missing an assignment is something that doesn't bother me. I mean, you've known me long enough to see what does upset me. Yeah, and I'm saying this is what upsets me. So we all have our triggers, right? We all have our triggers. School, huge trigger for me. I always wanted to do amazing at school. And if something was like this would happen, I would have just, like, the sky would be falling for me, because school was just that important to me. The statement had started out lighthearted, but it quickly shifted to one much more serious. You're always there. Your eyes met and his face was full of affection. It made your heart pound against your chest. Then the moment was interrupted by the piercing ring of the Holden home phone. You wordlessly stared at one another with raised eyebrows. Cove's mouth formed a tiny frown. I betcha Derek called my house and told my mom that he found my assignment. Kyra appeared in the hall on the far side of the living room, summoned by the noise. Hey, hi Cove, hi Vaughn. I didn't know you were here. She strolled on past. Your eyes followed her. Cove's mom answered the call, giving a chipper greeting to whoever was on the other end. A few uh-huhs and mm-hms later, Kyra thanked the person and placed the phone down once more. Vaughn, that was your ma. She said your stuff was in the car. Oh, okay. I think it would have also made sense for it to have been with, Derek. Although I'm kind of curious why we didn't decide to look at the car too. If we went through the trouble of going through my room, I would have think one of us would have thought to look at the car. I probably would have thought to look at the car as well, in addition to calling Derek. But
what?
Really? That's what I was told. Now I'll just return to the guest room. You can have your privacy. Cove's face cycled from shock to sour as his mom made her escape, laughing. She shook the interruption off and refocused. He shook the interruption off and refocused on you. They've got it. You were so relieved. You were so embarrassed. You couldn't believe it. You didn't know how to react. I would be so relieved. It was back. You had your work, and that's what mattered. They've got it. Cove smiled crookedly and shrugged one shoulder. We should probably head to your house. Your mom might want to talk to you. Yeah, my parents really care about me. They had kept searching even after you left, and because of that, it's all worked out. Cove nodded in agreement. Cove, it means a lot that you stuck with me. Thanks. He brightened up with the sparkling eyes.
Don't worry about it.
Anytime, Vaughn. While stepping towards the door together, there was a thought in your head that you knew to be true. You were going to be there for one another when it came to the big things and with the small things. Cool. All right. I said I wanted to check out the Soiree, so let's do the Soiree next. And it'll be after this one, it'll be halfway through them all. You'd whiled away the morning doing whatever struck your fancy and Now you were recharging with lunch. With nothing on the horizon, you were free to spend as much or as little time on your plate as you wanted. It was while you were thinking on all the possibilities for your afternoon that your moms approached you.
Hi.
Hi, Vaughn. You okay? Mouth full, you nodded in reply. To your surprise, they both sat with you at the table. Based on the time, you had wondered if they were joining you for a meal, but neither of them brought anything.
All right.
Great, we wanted to have a little chat with you. The qualifier little did nothing to downplay the situation. Your chewing slowed as your eyes widened. Looking from one parent to the other, anything that required both of them to talk to you must be something big. It was unsettling. You perked up, your mind full of exciting possibilities. Irritated at the interruption, you groaned. Yeah, what's the exciting possibility? A vacation maybe? Or a pet? A revelation that they were actually undercover agents? You leaned in, eager to learn more. There's a soiree at the Cypress tomorrow night. Your mom and I are going. The Cypress was the country club your moms were part of and where Elizabeth played golf. It seemed like every other month they had some event or another, all with fancy names like Soiree. You nodded eagerly, anxious for Mom to get to the good stuff. Mom chuckled at your poorly concealed reaction. Leaning in, Ma took your hand and squeezed it. We've decided to make the night a bit special. Elizabeth's going to be allowed to stay home fully alone for the first time.
Sorry.
You'll still be coming to the party with us. It's Elizabeth's night to party with no family around. Not yours. Sorry, you've got to wait a couple more years. That's not fair. You were disappointed by the news. Alright, I can go. What's the soiree going to be like? Yeah, I'd be curious. What's the soiree going to be like? The usual. Well, mostly. We wanted to make it a special night for you too, so we've got something a little extra planned. I like the sound of that. That was unexpected. Interested, you listened. Your parents shared a look across the table. You cleared your throat, reminding them that you were waiting. They couldn't keep dropping such hints and then turn coy when the conversation was about to get good.
Well,
Since it's a pretty fancy party that's still chaperoned, the attendees are allowed to bring a guest. We thought it might be a nice opportunity for you to invite someone yourself as a date, if you want. Your eyes widened as the words sunk in. Your mom's continued and it was a struggle to keep up. Even though you will be at the party too, you don't need to worry about us getting in your way. You'll be free to eat, dance, and enjoy the music as you see fit. But no leaving the property. Ma nodded Mob's interjection.
isn't that great?
Yes, as long as you don't leave the party, and if you'd rather bring just a friend, that's a-okay too. That's amazing. How disappointing. You didn't know how to react. That's amazing. You must have lit up because your parents shared an amused look again.
Don't worry about
The
it.
soiree isn't until tomorrow, so you've got time. Just let us know your plans before we're heading out. And that's all. We'll leave you to your lunch now. This is cool news. Your moms rose from their chairs in unison, disappearing to another part of the house. You barely noticed their departure. All you could think of was what just happened. The remnants of your lunch stared up at you from your plate. You felt that you should finish eating. You had lost your appetite. You were glad to go back to eating. No, I'm glad to go back to eating. You wolfed down the rest of your food, clearing your plate as you thought about how you'd like to spend tomorrow evening. Even though you'd relocated to your bedroom, your head was stuck on the conversation that had unfolded at the dining table downstairs. You knew that. Having someone come as a friend would be best. You wanted it to be a date. You didn't want to bring anyone. It was too soon to pick one or another. I wanted to be a date. The prospect of having your first date made it impossible to sit still. You couldn't help but jiggle your foot as you laid on your bed, contemplating the possibility. That night being a date would mean actually asking someone out. The little you knew of that came from what you'd seen on TV and movies and what you'd heard from kids at school. Your moms hadn't even entertained the idea of you dating until now. I know, just take it. Take the opportunity. You went over possible words and phrases in your head, setting up scenarios and smooth segues before tearing them down and trying something else. You realized that you've been mentally scripting Cove as the one you were asking. It had been his name repeating inside your mind, his face lighting up as you invited him to join you. You buried your face in the pillow, not wanting to continue after noticing. You laughed awkwardly at yourself. Smiling, you closed your eyes at the daydream crystallizing in your head. You let your train of thought continue a little longer. You clearly pictured his eyes, the way he rubbed his arm when he was nervous, and tried your best to guess what he might do next. It was nice. You liked him. You knew you were supposed to be friends, but you just liked him. A lot. You wouldn't be able to stop thinking of him even if you wanted to, and you didn't. Sighing, you shifted position on the bed, resting your arms on the windowsill. A flock of birds caught your eye and met your gaze as they crossed the sky. You watched the birds grow smaller and less distinct until they disappeared from sight. Like the snap of a hypnotist's fingers, you were released from the trance and left with a goal of your own. You were going to take a walk. You ambled through the familiar streets of your neighborhood, picking your path at whim. At whim. It was as quiet as ever, with tourists choosing to congregate in the shopping area near the beach rather than venture into the sleepy residential zones. You continued down the road and soon found yourself at the shore. The fresh, salty air hit you first, rolling to meet you over the grassy dunes that tickled your legs, followed by the familiar view of the sea stretching out across the horizon. You came to a halt. A lone figure was standing in the ocean, the water reaching up to his knees. Though he had his back to you, you recognized the familiar silhouette as Cove's. It made sense that you'd find him here. He always was in his element by the sea. You had no idea if he heard your arrival or if it was a coincidence, but he looked over his shoulder. Your eyes met. You smiled. You waved. You called out. You nervously headed closer. You confidently headed closer. I called out. "Hey, Cove!" Cove smiled at you, bathed in the soft light of the afternoon sun, with his hair gently tousled by the sea breeze. He looked especially charming. He then fully turned around and began to wade through the water over to the shore. You wanted him to get to you already. You hardly wait to talk about this. You hoped he took his time to come over. You were nervous about this. You relaxed after running into him. You're alright with all this. I would say that I'd be nervous. So I wanted to get him to all this. But I wouldn't, you want him to get to you already. You could hardly wait to talk about this. So I would probably do that. Heart aflutter, you wondered what you were going to say to him when he reached you. The question of whether to invite him, and if so, in what fashion, was in front of you, between leaping into a world unknown or enjoying the safety of the familiar.
Vaughn.
Hey, Vaughn, are you free right now? Not exactly. My moms are taking me to a soiree tomorrow at the country club. It was kind of a strange segue, but you wanted to get right to the point. A soiree, huh? Sounds exciting? He was smiling politely, but you could tell that your outing mention hadn't sparked much interest. That didn't come as much of a surprise to you. Formal affairs and big gatherings were some of his least favorite things, but you were sure he'd attend if you were the one who invited him. You only had to do it. Cove tilted his head curiously at you. You resolved to make it a date. You asked him to join as a friend only. You decided not to ask him at all. You didn't want to force him to come. I mean, asking him isn't forcing him. He can still say no. You decided not to ask him at all. You didn't feel like having a guest. You resolved to make it a date. Cove continued to watch you expectantly. It was kind of thrilling to keep him in suspense. Vaughn? Cove, I want you to be my date for the party. Do you want to go on a date with me? My parents said it'd be alright if I brought a date, and would you go to the party with me as a practice date? My parents said it'd be alright if I brought a date, but would I do that? I would say, do you want to go on a date with me? I'll say my parents said it'd be alright if I brought a date, and you danced around the unspoken question, hoping that Cove would catch your drift. Caught off guard, he lifted his hands in front of his chest out of surprise, then he packed them down across over his chest. He twisted his face to the side, no longer able to meet your eyes. He still couldn't hide the flush on his cheeks.
Oh my god.
Are you serious? I'm as serious as something serious? It's very serious, is what I'm saying. His lips were pressed tightly together, preventing any more words from slipping out. You could tell that he was nervous, but that was always easy to pick up on with him. After another moment, he inclined his head, dipping it in a nod so slight that you might have missed it had you been able to tear your eyes from him. Yay, really? You exhaled deeply. Thank you, you're welcome. I'll say, really? Cove closed his eyes, trapped in his awkward pose. He was gripping his arms so tightly that the skin around his knuckles was fully taut. Are you okay? Cove exhaled at last, letting out a sigh that stretched into another tense silence. His stance loosened. His arms stayed across his chest, but he was no longer clutching them like a shield. You didn't want to be the one to break the quiet. Thanks, Vaughn. I guess I'm gonna have to tell my dad and mom too. Right. I've gotta let my moms know you're going. Can you come with me? Yeah. It was a relief that he'd thawed enough to manage speech again. You hoped that by the time you got to your house, he'd be able to manage full sentences once more. Cove went to where he'd discarded his things in the sand, tugging a shirt over his head and slipping on a pair of shoes before joining you in setting off home. The two of you stepped inside the front door of your house. It was an action you'd taken together countless times, but your stomach had never churned quite like this on previous occasions. At the sound of the door opening, your mom poked her head into the hall.
Hello.
Hello. Ah, Cove, it's you. What a surprise. She chuckled at her own joke. Cove was always there, and she knew how close the two of you were. Bringing anyone other than him back would have been an actual surprise. Hi, Mrs. Angel. It's nice to meet you. So I take it Cove's going to be our guest for tomorrow night? Yup.
Wow.
And what kind of outing will it be? Her voice was hesitant but serious. Cove ducked his head down reflexively. You knew that he'd figured out what she was driving at. It's a date. You know what it is. What does it look like? You couldn't bring yourself to speak. I'll say, you know what it is. Mom nodded in understanding. She wore a wispy smile. Ma is going to be thrilled about this. Cove tilted his head back up, just slightly. He peeked through the longer strands of his hair. Just her, Mrs. Angel? Even if you'd not been able to see his wide, worried eyes, you'd have heard the anxiety in his voice. Your mom sighed and patted him on the arm. Oh, Cove, you're a great kid. Most parents hope that their kids meet such a special person someday. She glanced aside, a wry expression on her face. Someday is the real key word there. She turned back to you both. But you just had to move in right across the street at 8 years old. Mom crouched down, shaking her head, and put a hand on each of Cove's shoulders.
Okay.
Cove, I hope you're planning on being very good to Vaughn, and I'm not just talking about tomorrow night. She nudged him playfully on the cheek with his fist, and this is kind of embarrassing, I admit, especially at that age. Cove, who had been blushing when all this began, was now as red as an heirloom tomato. Okay, yeah, I was, or will? You're making him uncomfortable. Stop embarrassing me. You don't have to worry. Cove definitely going to be good to me. Come on, Cove, what kind of answer is that? You're making him uncomfortable. You crossed your arms over your chest and frowned at your mom. Was she trying to scare Cove off before you'd even have a chance to go out with him? He didn't speak further. His eyes locked down on his shuffling feet as he rubbed the scar on his arm. The redness remained intact. Okay, I've put Cove through the ringer enough. The big day isn't even here yet. You wondered if that meant she intended to give a repeat of this performance tomorrow. You were afraid to find out. I'll give your folks a call and get everything squared away. She headed off to get the phone, leaving the two of you alone. Cove's eyes darted to you, and he shot you a quick, delicate smile before staring at the ground again. I'm gonna go across the street, talk to my parents. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye, Cove. He retreated from your home's entryway without another word. And the rest of the afternoon passed by just like that. Back in your room, your mind was alight with visions of tomorrow night. The soiree was something, but not nearly as exciting as going on your first date. You were thrilled that Cove had actually said yes, that he was your genuine date to a party. You hugged your knees to your chest, overawed by the thought the night couldn't come soon enough. I'd be very excited if it was my first date. And it's kind of cool having a first date with a childhood friend, somebody that you've known for many years, you know? The evening of the soiree had arrived, the daylight hours having slipped away in a blur. Up in your bedroom, you're getting ready for the big event. I'm wondering if we'll get our first kiss. I feel like that'd be a little too fast on a first date. At middle school, I probably would not be comfortable with a first kiss on a first date. So, that was your intention. That was your intention, at least, but you hadn't settled on an outfit. Stationed in front of your wardrobe, you scanned over the clothing you had at your disposal. Though Ma had mentioned this event was a bit dressier than a normal get-together, you didn't necessarily have to comply. Oh, I like dressing up. You looked for something formal. You wanted to keep things casual. You wondered how Cove might feel about your outfit. No, I would have wanted something formal. You looked for something formal. You attempted to decide between the nicer pieces in your wardrobe, the ones that rarely had a chance to come out. You decided to dress formally because this is a special event. You felt like you had to. You honestly liked dressing up. You were dressing to impress. You ought to put things you own to use. You wanted to make Ma happy. I liked dressing up more when I was older, not so much when I was in middle school. So honestly, it's between honestly liking dressing up and dressing to impress. But I'm going to say that my gut reaction is dressing to impress. Fashion was a competitive sport, just like the golf tournaments the club hosted. You might not walk out with a trophy at the end, but you still had every intention of winning. So, to start, you decided to wear a dress, a blouse, a button-down shirt. Oh, that's pretty cool. Very progressive. A button-down shirt. Crisp shirts were a classic formal look for a reason. They were essentially foolproof. You paired your top with a skirt or dress pants. You picked a pair that complemented the color of your top and nodded with satisfaction. It was a slick look. You began to get dressed, your fingers working stiff zips and awkward fastenings. It felt different against your skin, reminding you with every moment that you were dressed up. Whatever happened tonight, you were pleased that you'd gotten the opportunity to wear this. I'm wondering how well dressed Cove will be. It'd be really cool if maybe he would do his hair. Oh, that would be so cute if he gelled his hair or styled his hair. That would probably be super hot. Hair is a big deal for me on guys. It can make or break a guy, how their hair is. Now dressed, you gave yourself a final glance over before heading downstairs, ready to head out. You found your moms already waiting in the living room. They were putting the finishing touches on their outfits. Ma strapping her heel into a stiletto shoe and Mom trying to fasten a bracelet single-handed. Oh wow, you two look great. I love this mom's outfit the best because of just how colorful it is. This one looks good too. I just feel like it's so, I don't know, I really like bright colors. I really love bright colors when it comes to like elegant clothing and dresses. They looked up as you entered. Oh, Vaughn, you look so nice. Don't you think, Pam?
Thanks.
Thanks for dressing up, Vaughn. I hope the party will be prepared for your arrival. You look sharp. Mom was still struggling with the bracelet. You lent a hand, literally by taking one side and holding it as she secured the clasp. Thanks, kiddo. Mom then glanced over at the clock on the wall. Seeing where the hands were pointing, a frown creased to her face. When's Cove going to be here? Do you know? He's getting here at 7, soon probably. I'm not sure. I'm picking him up from his place. I'll go get him. I'll say I'll go get him.
Oh.
Oh, yeah? She raised her eyebrows, a broad grin replacing the earlier frown. That's very polite of you. Go sweep him off his feet. We want to leave in 10 minutes. Okay. Cove's house was mere seconds away from yours, making the warning unnecessary, but you dutifully went out. After crossing the street, you found yourself at Cove's very familiar front door. You rang the bell, whose chime was lodged in your head from all the times you'd rung it over the years. Though, unlike usual, Cove's mom, Kyra, was the one who answered it this night.
Come on.
Hey, Vaughn, come on in. She beckoned you inside as if she was so excited to see you that words alone weren't enough. Thanks for coming. The boys will be right down. They're just in Cove's room. I can call them if you want. That would be great, thanks. It's alright, I can wait. Can I go check? You went over to Cove's room to check yourself. That would be great. Now I'm gonna be polite. That would be great, thanks.
Sure.
Sure thing. She stepped over to the opening of the hallway at the other side of the living room and hollered down. Cove! Cliff! Vaughn is here! Cliff's voice came back without its owner. Just a minute. Thanks. Hello, Vaughn. You chuckled. It was longer than a minute, but Kyra easily filled the time by chatting with you about your plans for the night ahead. Oh, Cove looks nice. It's black, but I'm not surprised. It's a classic look. It's a good look. If I had my way, I would give him a little bit of a splash of color, maybe a nice gold tie. Ooh, that would have been really hot if he had a nice gold tie, or a sea green tie to match his hair. That would have been even better, and his eyes bring out. But the full black, it still works. It's a classic look, you know. Definitely, you can't fail with it. A short while later, I just kind of wish that Cove would be a little bit, I don't know, happier? Smile more? About us going on a date? He might be nervous. A short while later, Mr. Holden, I'm pretty guaranteed he's nervous. A short while later, Mr. Holden strolled into the room, giving you a wave. Cove pulled his face. Yay, I have a smile. Thank you. That's all I needed. I didn't need the golden tie. I didn't need the aquamarine or sea green tie. I just needed a smile. That is what is the best thing for your outfit, is a smile. Cove pulled his face into a smile. As you reciprocated, the tension in his face faded away. You watched him taking in your outfit, swallowing and grinning at you again. Hi, Vaughn. Hi, Cove. He opened his mouth to speak more, then paused. Cove checked the time using a clock hanging on a side wall and addressed his parents. We've got to go. He abruptly headed towards the door.
Come on.
Where's the fire? Isn't there something you want to do before leaving for the dance? Yeah, let's take a picture. Cove froze, wincing at the call-out, while his dad continued to smile encouragingly. Curious, we watched Cove expectantly. It was hard to imagine what he'd want to do before heading out, or what you'd have time for. A photo! It's a picture, it's like going to prom! Your mom's warning about not taking too long echoed in the back of your mind.
Come on.
We can do that later. Right, sorry, forget I said anything. Have a blast, you two. Bye. You ducked out, following Cove into the street. Cove sighed, wrapping a hand across his forehead. Seeing the look on your face, he shook his head.
It's okay.
I'm fine, it's nothing. That was good news. You didn't think Cove would get much fun out of a party if he went in already feeling bad, but didn't explain his actions or his dad's teasing question. What was your dad on about? His expression grew pained, his brow creased and his mouth furrowed as he avoided meeting you in the eyes. You might have gotten worried, if not for the flush coloring in his face. He's just embarrassed. Cove drew himself up before responding. Dad's been making a big deal out of everything ever since he found out about this. He gestured vaguely between him and you. How I'm dressed, how I should prepare, what was going to happen. He even looked up the precise definition of a soiree in 2 dictionaries, in case one was wrong. That's a lot. He wanted to make sure I would know what to do at one, so after he figured it out, he made sure to tell me about it. He exhaled, smiling sheepishly.
Don't worry about it.
Sorry for complaining. It's not your fault. It's not really his fault either. It's okay. Thanks. I was trying to get somewhere with that. Both my dad and my mom insisted that, since this is a... He paused, pushing his hair back from his burning face and forced himself to continue. It's a date and kind of a fancy party. I needed to bring something. For you, for inviting me. Aw, it's so sweet. His parents did the right thing. His parents are teaching him properly. The conclusion of the story caught you by surprise. You blinked, unsure if you'd slacked too much on your own preparations for tonight. I like chivalry. I appreciate chivalry. You got me a present?
That's...
Not really, just this. Cove reached behind himself to take something out of his back pocket. His hand returned to view with him holding a single small buttercup by the stem. Oh, it's so sweet! Cove threw his gaze to the floor, shyly inching his hand closer to you. It's my favorite. This is nice. I don't like this flower, you said jokingly. Aw, I don't like this flower, you said honestly. This is nice. Cove audibly sighed in relief. You got the impression he'd been stressing over the flower he chose. He took that answer as a win. You didn't need to do this, Cove. I'm sorry I didn't get you anything. Thank you, Cove. You left the conversation there. You're so wonderful. I'm sorry I didn't get you anything. It's no big deal. I mean, like I said, you're already the one who invited me. I only get to go because of you. Then you accepted the flower from him. Cove straightened himself out in response. So, we're going to be late if we keep standing here. Right, we better hurry. You returned home. Cove and Tao, your moms welcomed you back. You'd expect them to pile you back outside immediately, but their urge was momentarily stifled as they caught sight of the flower clasped in your hand. Thankfully, other than sharing an infuriatingly knowing smile, they took it in stride and didn't say anything. Mom's smug look vanished as she caught sight of the clock. Purpose remembered, your moms whisked you out once more, into the car and off to your destination. Ooh, this looks lovely! I can't wait for the nighttime to see all the stars. You pulled up at the country club. The sun had sunk deep into the horizon, the last of its light sleepily warming the oncoming night. Your moms led the way to the space around the back where the event was being held. The place had been transformed through decoration, with smart tablecloths and elegant ribbons contributing to a festival atmosphere. I am just excited and appreciative that Elizabeth does not appear in this chapter, because it would have been really annoying if Elizabeth was in this. Musicians dressed in matching black and white were setting up their instruments and flicking through pages of sheet music. And, as promised, there was a table covered in plates of carefully prepared food. Destination reached, your parents rounded on you in Cove. Things haven't kicked off yet, but don't let that stop you from enjoying yourselves.
Have fun.
Have fun. We'll be around if you need us.
See you later.
See you. Bye.